I need a husband by tomorrow. I said it quietly, but not quietly enough for the words not to slide across the greasy counter of the diner and land in the wrong ears. The bell above the door rang right after, as if the world had decided to punctuate the sentence. It was almost midnight. A thin rain scratched the asphalt of the avenue like fingernails on glass, and the smell of reheated coffee had already seeped into my skin. I'd been falling apart for weeks, maybe months. I just hadn't noticed before, because learning how to fall slowly is a skill you develop when you can't afford to stop. The napkin I was squeezing between my fingers tore. Not from strength, from insistence. The manager had just walked out the back door, leaving his verdict hanging in the air. Either I showed up tomorrow at the registry office in a stable family situation, or the adoption process for my younger sister would be permanently closed. New rules, he said with a shrug. You know how it is. Social. Workers, judges, they want guarantees. Guarantees. As if love had a tax ID. The diner was almost empty. A couple argued in silence in a corner. A truck driver slept with his forehead pressed to the table, and the old radio behind the counter whispered a country song far too sad for that hour. The ceiling fan creaked, pushing hot air from side to side without convincing anyone. That's when he cleared his throat. Sorry. The voice was deep, but careful, like someone who weighs every word before letting it go. I couldn't help overhearing. I looked up slowly. I'd learned early that too much urgency gives desperation away. He was sitting at the last booth near the rain-fogged window, dark jacket, unshaven beard, the look of someone carrying more than he showed. Beside him, a child's backpack with a bright green dinosaur keychain hanging from it, out of place. I don't usually interfere, he continued, but you said you need a husband by tomorrow. I let out a short laugh, the kind that doesn't ask permission. I do, I replied, but if you're about to make a joke, just know I'm not in the mood. He shook his head. It's not a joke. We stared at each other for a few seconds, long enough for me to notice the dark circles under his eyes, the pale ring where a wedding band used to be. Only people who've worn one recognize that mark, and the way he kept his hands flat on the table, open, visible, an unconscious gesture from someone who wants to look harmless. I'm Daniel, he said, single father, widower. The word landed between us with the right weight, not heavy-handed, not light, real. I'm not offering a real marriage, he added quickly, at least not in the traditional sense, but I can help. My first instinct was to tell him to leave. The second was to ask if he had any contagious diseases. The third was my sister's face, asleep with her arms wrapped around an old pillow, believing I'd come back tomorrow with good news. So you're telling me, I said, leaning on the counter, that you'd marry a stranger by tomorrow. Why? He took a breath, looked out the window, as if checking whether the rain was still there to make sure the world hadn't changed. Because I know what it's like to lose someone over paperwork, he said, and because my daughter needs stability just as much as you do right now. Daughter. The dinosaur made sense. And because, he added, sometimes doing something absurd is the only sensible thing left. The radio crackled, switching songs. A distant thunder rolled against the glass. A strange chill ran up my spine, not fear, but recognition, as if this night had been written somewhere and I'd simply arrived late. This is insane, I murmured. Absolutely, he agreed without hesitation. Silence again. The couple got up and left. The truck driver snored louder. The bell stayed still, as if holding its breath with me. Tomorrow, I asked, would you have documents, time, the patience to face a social worker who thinks she's seen everything? One corner of his mouth lifted. I have all the documents, he said. I'll make time, and social workers. He shrugged. I've survived worse interrogations. I closed my eyes for a second. Just one. Long enough to see my life flashing like headlights on a dark highway. Long enough to understand there was no plan B. "My name is Clara," I said. "And if you're lying, I swear I'll cause such a scene this diner will become a tourist attraction." He smiled for real this time. Not wide, controlled. "Fair." I grabbed a fresh napkin, pulled a pen from my apron pocket, and wrote my number. My hand trembled, but the letters were steady. When I slid the paper toward him, I felt the weight of the decision settle on my shoulders. Heavy, irreversible, strangely right. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m., registry office downtown." He folded the napkin carefully, as if it were fragile. "I'll be there." As he stood up, his jacket brushed the chair and the dinosaur keychain swung, making a soft plastic sound. Before leaving, he turned back. "Clara," he said, "whatever happens after, thank you for trusting me." The door closed behind him. The bell rang, and I stayed there, heart racing, knowing I'd just accepted the most absurd and maybe most important proposal of my life. The registry office smelled like cheap disinfectant and old paper, the kind of place where irreversible decisions are made under fluorescent lights, without soundtrack, without an audience, just the dry sound of a stamp, like a hammer inside your chest. I arrived 15 minutes early, borrowed clothes from my neighbor. A navy blue dress that wasn't my style, but looked serious enough to convince a judge I knew what I was doing with my life. My hands were sweating inside my purse. I checked the documents for the 5th time when I heard hurried footsteps echo down the hallway. Daniel appeared out of breath, hair still damp, white shirt poorly ironed. He didn't look like a man about to get married. He looked like someone chasing a bus he couldn't miss. "Traffic," he said before I could ask. "Sorry." "You came," I replied. Not an accusation, a fact. He nodded, scanned the room, the way someone who's been in worse places does. Then his eyes landed on me, too quick to be invasive, too long to be casual. "You look different from the diner," he said. "So do you," I replied. "Less improbable." A short smile crossed his face. It didn't reach his eyes. The clerk called us without ceremony. A woman, with a tight bun, glasses low on her nose, the expression of someone who'd united too many people to still be moved. We sat side by side, separated by a narrow desk that seemed designed to prevent escape. "Full name," she said. I spoke. Daniel spoke. Dates, documents, signatures. Every word felt like stepping deeper into icy water. When she asked if we agreed freely and spontaneously, I almost laughed. Free? No. Spontaneous? Maybe too much. "Yes," we said, nearly in unison. The stamp came down. Dry, final. We were married. No kiss, no photo, just a handshake that lasted half a second too long, long enough to remind me this involved another person, not just a plan. Outside, the morning sun blinded me for a moment. The city went on as usual. Horns, street vendors, people late for work. No one knew my life had just shifted axis. "Now comes the hard part," Daniel said, adjusting the child's backpack on his shoulder. "The social worker," I finished. His apartment was a few blocks away. An old building, an elevator that groaned like it resented its job. The hallway smelled of reheated food and laundry soap. When the door opened, the first thing I saw was a drawing taped to the fridge, a crooked, smiling green dinosaur. "That's Sophia," he explained, following my gaze. "She's 6, and her imagination is loud." "Does she know," I began, "that we're married?" He took a breath. "She knows you're a friend helping us for a while, nothing more. She's still learning how to deal with loss. I don't want to confuse her." I nodded. It made sense. Too much sense for something this reckless. The social worker arrived exactly at 10. Young woman, tablet in hand, professional smile, eyes too sharp for my liking. We sat on the couch, close enough to look intimate, far enough not to seem forced. I could feel the heat of Daniel's arm against mine. A small detail, disturbing. Questions came in waves. How we met, how long ago, household routine, future plans. Daniel answered calmly, without hesitation. I slipped into the gaps he left, inventing memories with a fluency that scared me. "You seem very aligned," she commented, typing on her tablet. "We talk a lot," Daniel said. Not a lie. Just recent. When Sophia appeared in the living room holding her plastic dinosaur, the dynamic shifted. She looked at me like she was evaluating a new toy, not hostile, curious. "Are you staying?" she asked, straight. "I am," I answered before thinking. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her room. The social worker watched closely. "Children notice things," she said, "sometimes before adults do." After she left, silence spread through the apartment like dust. Daniel ran a hand over his face, exhausted. "You were amazing," he said. "Thank you." "You too," I replied. "You seem trained." He let out a humorless laugh. "Years of trying to look whole for a child who lost her mother," he said. "You learn to improvise." The word stayed between us. Improvise, exactly what we were. That night, I went home to pack a bag, came back with only the essentials. When I lay down on the sofa bed, the ceiling felt higher than in my old life. Or maybe I was smaller inside it. I heard light footsteps. Sophia appeared at the doorway in pajamas. "Do you snore?" she asked. "Only when I dream loud," I said. She thought about it. "That's okay," she said. "Dinosaurs do too." When the door closed, I stared into the dark, feeling the weight of the day settle on me. We were officially connected. By paper, by lie, by need. And somewhere between the stamp and the green dinosaur, I had the uncomfortable sense that this story wouldn't end when the plan did. I woke up to a dull sound from the kitchen. Not loud, precise, like something falling in the same spot every day. I opened my eyes slowly, trying to remember where I was, until the sofa bed, the unfamiliar ceiling, and the fact that I was now married to a man I'd met less than 24 hours ago, came rushing back. The clock read 6:40 a.m. morning. Light cut the living room into pale stripes. The smell of fresh coffee drifted in with the sound. Daniel. I got up quietly. The cold floor complained under my feet, but he didn't turn around. He stood with his back to me, grey shirt, sleeves rolled up, focused on flipping pancakes in a battered pan. "You wake up early," I said. He almost dropped the spatula. "I always wake up," he replied after a second. "Old habit." The coffee maker gurgled. A small radio on top of the fridge played a children's song, the kind that sticks in your head and refuses to leave. Sophia appeared soon after, still sleepy, dragging the dinosaur along the floor. "Good morning," she said naturally. "Good morning," I replied. "Want help with breakfast?" "She likes adding the honey," Daniel said, "and she always overdoes it." "I don't overdo it," Sophia protested. "Honey is the best part." I grabbed a plate, served the pancakes, watched the routine unfold as if I'd rehearsed it for months. It was too easy to fit in. That put me on edge. While we ate, Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen too quickly and turned it face down. "Trouble?" I asked. "Work," he said. "Nothing I can't handle." A lie. Small, but a lie. After Sophia left for school, the apartment felt too big. Silence wasn't comfortable. Daniel washed dishes, I dried them, automatic choreography. When our hands touched at the sink, he pulled away first. "Sorry," he said. "It's fine," I replied. It wasn't. We sat at the kitchen table. I needed to to set boundaries, rules, anything that gave shape to the situation. "This," I began, "needs a deadline." He nodded. 30 days, he suggested. "Enough time for your situation with your sister to resolve. After that, we undo everything. And Sophia? For her, you're someone who helped. Nothing more." The way he said it, so firm, told me that decision had been made long before me. "Okay," I said. "Then rules." "Rules," he agreed. We listed them like an invisible contract. No invading personal space, no unnecessary explanations, no feelings. The last rule hovered in the air for a few seconds before being spoken. "No falling in love," I said. He looked straight at me. "Agreed." That afternoon I went to work. The diner looked the same, but I didn't. The manager gave me a strange look, as if I'd changed social categories overnight. The bell rang dozens of times. I served coffee, took orders, smiled automatically. My head was elsewhere. When I got back, Daniel was sitting on the couch, documents spread out, phone to his ear. "No, I can't," he was saying. "I have a commitment." Commitment. The word hit me unexpectedly. He hung up when he saw me. "Sorry," he said. "That was my mother-in-law." "Mother-in-law?" "Mother of my wife," he corrected quickly. "My late wife." The silence that followed was heavy. There was no script for that. "She doesn't know about you," he continued. "Not yet." "And will she?" "Eventually." He sighed. "But not now." Another layer of complication. I nodded, even though I didn't like it. That night, Sophia asked me to read her a story. Daniel stood in the doorway watching. When I finished, she held my hand. "Will you stay tomorrow too?" she asked. "I will," I said. In the hallway, Daniel waited. "You don't have to do this," he said. "I know," I replied. "But I'm here." He seemed like he wanted to say more. He didn't. When I went to lie down, an envelope waited on the sofa. My name written in firm handwriting. Inside was a copy of my sister's adoption file, with notes, phone numbers, a plan. Daniel wasn't in the room. But in that moment I knew he hadn't entered my life by accident, and I was starting to suspect that this improvised marriage held more secrets than I was ready to face. The envelope weighed more than paper should. I sat on the sofa for several minutes, listening to distant traffic, trying to understand when exactly Daniel had found the time and the reason to gather such specific information about my life. Names of social workers, internal deadlines, notes scribbled in the margins like he'd been there before. More than once. When he came back from the bedroom, he found me with the envelope open on my lap. "Care to explain?" I asked quietly. He closed the door slowly. He didn't look surprised. He looked prepared. "I knew you'd find it," he said. "I just didn't think it would be today." "That doesn't answer anything." He sat in the armchair across from me, elbows on his knees. The confident man from the diner was gone. In his place, someone tired, vulnerable. "My wife," he began, "worked at family court, not as a judge, administrative staff. She saw these cases every day, adoptions, custody, appeals, injustices." I stayed silent, let him continue. "When she got sick, she tried to speed some things up, help people stuck in bureaucracy. Some made it, others didn't." He took a breath. "After she died, I kept going, not out of heroism, out of guilt." The word landed heavy. "So you investigated me?" I asked. "I heard you in the diner," he said, "the desperation in your voice. I'd seen it before. I just confirmed." "You should have told me." "I should have," he agreed. "But if I had that night, you'd have said no." He was right. That made me angrier. "I don't like being manipulated." "I didn't manipulate you to hurt you," he said. "I gave you options. Options I wouldn't have had without him." The anger softened, didn't disappear, changed shape. That night, The doorbell rang. Daniel froze. I felt the air shift. "Are you expecting someone?" I asked. He shook his head. When he opened the door, a woman walked in without asking. Perfect hair, expensive bag, sharp eyes. The kind of person who measures rooms and people like risk assessments. "Daniel," she said, "we need to talk." He shot me a quick, alert look. "Clara, this is Helena," he said. "My mother-in-law." Helena examined me head to toe. "So you're the new wife," she said without hiding. Her disdain. Fast. "Life is unpredictable," I replied before Daniel could stop me. One corner of her mouth lifted. "I see you have personality. Good. You'll need it." She sat on the sofa, uninvited. What followed was an interrogation disguised as conversation. How we met, where I worked, why so fast. Daniel answered carefully. I filled in where needed. Helena watched, searching for cracks. "Sophia," she said suddenly, "how is she with all this?" "Fine," I replied. "Children understand more than we think." She held my gaze a second longer. "I hope you know what you're getting into." After she left, the apartment felt smaller. "She doesn't believe you," I said. "She doesn't believe anyone," he replied, "especially me. She's going to try to prove this marriage is fake." "I know." Silence. For the first time, the no-feelings rule felt too fragile to protect us. Later that night, Sophia had a nightmare, screamed her mother's name. Daniel ran. I followed. We stayed there, the three of us, until she calmed down. When she fell asleep again, Daniel rested his forehead against the wall. "I shouldn't have brought you into this," he murmured. "Maybe I was already in it," I replied. That night, lying on the sofa, I heard Daniel pacing the apartment. I thought of Helena, the envelope, the registry stamp. This marriage had started as a solution. Now it was becoming a battlefield, and I had the feeling someone was going to lose much more than planned. The first thing I lost was sleep. I started waking before the alarm, body on alert, as if waiting for something to happen. The apartment no longer felt improvised, it felt inhabited. My things had infiltrated the corners, an extra toothbrush, a coat behind the door, a scent that wasn't just his or mine. Daniel changed too, quieter, more alert. He started coming home earlier, avoided calls around me, and locked the door twice before bed. He didn't comment, neither did I, until the day she showed up again. Helena didn't ring the bell. She used a key. "We need to talk now," she said, walking in with her phone already in hand. Sophia was at school. The apartment shrank instantly. "You can't just walk in," I said. "Yes, I can," she replied. "This apartment is still in my son's name." Daniel closed his eyes for a second, a silent plea for calm. It didn't work. "I know exactly what you're doing," Helena continued, pacing. "This marriage won't hold, and I can prove it." She showed her phone, photos, the diner, the registry, office, my work schedule, a dossier. "Private investigation," she said. "Expensive, worth every cent." My stomach dropped. "You're going to try to take Sophia," I said. "I'm going to protect my granddaughter," she corrected, "from a lie." "It's not a lie," Daniel said firmly. "It's a choice." "A desperate one," Helena snapped. "And judges hate desperation." She turned to me. "Do you have any idea the damage you'll cause if this collapses?" she asked. "Children aren't extras." She left, weaponizing silence. Daniel sank onto the couch, rubbing his face. "She's going to file for custody," he said, "and she'll use you as her argument." "Then I leave," I said too fast. "If I'm not here." "No," he cut in. "That only proves her point." "Then what do you want me to do?" He looked at me for the first time, without armor. "Stay," he said, "but stay for real." The words hung between us. Dangerous. That night the social worker called. Extraordinary review of my sister's process. Someone had pulled strings, not a coincidence. The two battles were colliding. Days later, Helena filed formally. The hearing was scheduled for both of us, as a couple. I sat on the bed, holding the paper, feeling the ground give way. "If we lose," I said, "you lose Sophia, and I lose my sister." Daniel knelt in front of me. "No," he said, "if we lose together, but we haven't lost yet." He held my hands, not as an agreement, as a choice. "This stopped being a plan," he said. "I know. And if you want to leave now, I'll understand." I looked around. The dinosaur drawing, the sofa bed, the envelope that started everything. "I'm staying," I said, "until the end." That night we slept in the same room for the first time. No rush, no promises, just the quiet understanding that there was no longer a clear line between lie and truth. And as I drifted off, an uncomfortable certainty settled in. To win that war, someone would have to expose feelings they'd sworn they didn't have. The hearing day dawned grey, not rain, not sun, one of those indecisive skies that mirror exactly how you feel inside. I woke before the alarm, listening to Daniel move beside me. His breathing was shallow, controlled, as if even air had learned to wait. Sophia walked into the room without knocking. "Are you going to fight today?" she asked, holding the dinosaur. Daniel sat up immediately. "No," he said. "We're going to talk." She looked at me, eyes too observant for 6 years old. "Talking is when adults use hard words?" she asked. "Sometimes," I said, "but today we're telling the truth." She thought for a moment, then nodded. "Truth is better," she concluded, hugging the dinosaur. At the courthouse, the hallway smelled of cold coffee and anxiety. Helena was already there, impeccable, confident. Her lawyer reviewed papers like someone reviewing destiny. When our eyes met, she smiled. Not with joy, with advantage. The hearing room was smaller than I expected. No grandeur, just chairs, a table, a tired judge, and decisions that would change lives. When we were called, my legs shook. Daniel held my hand, didn't let go. Questions started. Timeline of the marriage, living arrangements, motivation. Helena asked to speak. "Your Honor," she said, "this marriage was celebrated under extremely questionable circumstances. A desperate waitress, a vulnerable widower, a child in the middle. Everything indicates a fabricated union designed to bypass the system." My heart pounded. I was ready to speak, but Daniel spoke first. "Yes," he said. "It started that way." The judge looked up. "Explain." "I heard a woman say she needed a husband by tomorrow," Daniel said, "and I knew instantly she was about to lose someone she loved. I recognized the desperation because I'd lived in it." He looked at me, not for permission, for responsibility. At first it was an agreement, a piece of paper, an attempt to protect 2 children. He squeezed my hand. But it didn't stay that way. Helena's lawyer tried to interrupt. The judge allowed him to continue. "I fell in love with my wife," Daniel said. "Not quickly, not out of need, but because she stayed when she could have left, because she chose my daughter when she had no obligation to." Silence filled the room. "This marriage wasn't born perfect," he finished, "but it's real now, and I won't apologize for that." The judge turned to me. "Do you confirm?" My voice didn't falter. "I didn't enter this for love," I said. "I entered for survival. But I stayed by choice, and today, if you ask me what this family is, I can answer." Helena no longer looked at us. She looked at the floor. The decision came immediately. Custody request denied. Family stability recognized. My sister's process cleared for final phase. When we stepped outside, the sky had opened a little. Nothing dramatic, just enough light. Sophia ran to us. "Did you win?" she asked. Daniel crouched. We stayed, he said. She smiled. Simple. Whole. Months later, at the same registry office, we signed another paper. No rush, no strange witnesses, just us. This time no heavy stamp, just nervous laughter. A kiss. Sometimes I still remember the night at the diner, the bell, the rain, the absurdity of the proposal. I needed a husband by tomorrow. What I found was a family, and this time it wasn't improvisation. It was truth.